the things no man figures out alone. About 4 years ago, my long-term relationship ended. Lost my partner, lost my home, lost a lot of friends, lost family, lost my dog. That stuff hurt. I moved to a new city where I knew no one, got a new job. Lots of change, lots of loss, lots of how do I figure this out? On the advice of a close and trusted friend, I explored men's work. I went to an initiation over a weekend and joined a group. And I've been in the group ever since. And in that group, I learned that there is a form of healthy masculinity. And that form, that particular form, expresses vulnerability without collapse. The way that men express vulnerability without collapse is within a container, and at least in this case, it's most useful to have a container of other men. What the men bring is an expectation for you, for me, to own my shadow, to express shame, anger, disappointment, frustration, sadness, despair, all the negative feelings that can come up in a man's life and do come up in a man's life. And if you can do that in a room of men ready to hold it, you realize that it's just completely okay to have these feelings. Not only is it okay, it's okay to express them. Not only is it okay to express them, in that container, it's expected that you express them. It's expected that you take ownership for how you feel and why, and what's the underlying driver for those feelings. Essentially, what you're doing in the container is expressing what your shadow owns. The takeaway there is that you learn that you have shadows. You have dark sides of you that are driving, compelling even, negative feelings within you. And then you get to address them. You don't have to deny it. You don't have to be in defense of them. You just get to embrace them as the truth of you. And that opens up a whole world of opportunities. Another thing I learned in a men's group is the importance of men to actually be seen authentically. You know, your partners, your friends, your employers, whomever's in your life today, especially if you're a man, they see what they want to see. If anybody who's been in a long-term relationship, you know, in the beginning, the honeymoon phase, if you will, me and, you know, the women that have been in my life, we see the best of each other at the time, and we engage with the best of each other, the willingness of each of us to show what we're willing to show to the other person. And in the honeymoon phase, it's always the good stuff, right? In the men's group, you're expected to show up authentically, to be you completely and fully, the good parts and the bad. There's no preconceived notions. There's no bias towards who you're supposed to be. You're expected to just show up. If you're sad, show up sad and own it. If you're mad, show up mad and own it. If you're happy, show up happy and own it. But being witnessed as your authentic self by a group of other men who are also showing up as their authentic selves, there's a power in that. I can't explain it. I can't put it into words. If you've ever been through a military boot camp, for example, this shows up there too, where, you know, everybody is slime of the earth. Everybody who's coming to boot camp is just, they're scum. They're lower than scum. And everybody's treated the same. Doesn't matter what walk of life you're coming from. Doesn't matter how much money you got in the bank. Doesn't matter what your life experience is. Everybody's treated the same. And you have to earn your respect. Another thing I learned in a men's group is there's a power in the collective wisdom of other men. The initiation, accountability, purpose, you know, these things are they need to be learned through experience, by doing, by having an expectation placed on you and have you meet that expectation wherever you are. Unfortunately, YouTube, like this video, isn't going to teach you that. Unfortunately, you have to go have the experience. In fact, the group won't necessarily teach you that either. It's just something that organically emerges from the group. There's this collective wisdom, there's this collective expectation in the group that just kind of gets written to your source code about what a healthy manhood looks like, what it looks like to be an authentic, real version of yourself, and to own all of the parts that interfere with the expression of that authenticity. Whether you were abused as a child, or you just lost a job, or you are suffering through a bad relationship, or doesn't matter. Insert, life here. It doesn't matter. The expectation is you come to the group, you express these things authentically, and then you own the parts that you're responsible for. That process is embedded in the group's culture, the group's identity. And there's a certain wisdom that's being passed on to all the members of the group with that, from within that framework. And it's really to take full ownership and responsibility for who you are, your actions, and your results. Another thing I learned from the group is don't give advice. Don't give advice if it's not asked for. It's so much more important to reflect back what another man is sharing in the group. But don't try to jump in and interject as though you're right. Boy, I think I'm a smart guy. And I've given a lot of unsolicited advice in life. And yet at the same time, I tend to reject unsolicited advice given to me. What an irony. The idea here is the group is not intended to be set up as a feedback mechanism. It's intended to reflect back to you what you already know to be true. Of course, you can ask for advice, and there's a lot of men that are willing to give it. There's a lot of men from all walks of life that have different life experiences, and in some ways may have struggled the same way you have. And the wise ones, they really, really hold back on offering that unless it's given. And the last thing I learned from being in these groups is to know when it's time to move on. In my case, my growth has taken, a different shape and color and size and texture. And I'm looking for something new, a new container to keep me accountable to my own commitments to myself and to others, and to make sure that I'm expressing my values in a way that is demonstrative of healthy masculinity. I want to take the time to honor everything that I've learned here from being in a men's group. It's no small thing. And of course, none of this is mental health advice. I think before thinking that a men's group is going to solve any kind of problems, definitely seek help from a mental professional, which I am not. This is just my own journey, my own path, and every man walks their own path. Every person walks their own path. And some journeys have forks in them, like mine did. And I found that joining a men's group, being initiated, and learning and growing from the collective wisdom of the group over the last 3 years has been transformative. It's been utterly, utterly transformative for me. So the room doesn't fix you, but it lets you hear what you already know. I hope this finds you well.